Good evening. It's 7 o'clock. Plan Commission agenda, City of Marshfield, Tuesday, June 18th. Council chambers, call to order. Roll call.
Mayor Teastrake?
Here.
Councilmember O'Reilly? Here. Commissioner Bernardi? Here. Commissioner Frederick? Here. Commissioner Piles? Here. We do not have Commissioner Caprillion or Commissioner Veith, but we do have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of agenda?
I am here.
Oh, great.
I am here.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You just came in.
I didn't realize
you.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Excellent. Approval of agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Second by Alderman
Okay, all right.
O'Reilly. Any comments, questions? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Approval of minutes, May 21st, 2024 special meeting.
I'll do my part this time.
Yes.
Commissioner Veith?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Did everyone else vote?
Any questions, comments? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion passes. Number 5, identify potential conflicts of interest. Please be advised per City Policy 3.340 that any member of this body shall declare a conflict if they have an interest, financial or otherwise direct or indirect, or engage in a business or transaction or professional activity, or incur an obligation of any nature that is in conflict with the proper discharge of the body's official duties. Seeing no conflict, we'll move on to item 6. Citizens' comments. Citizens' comments. Third time citizen comment. Seeing none, move on to item 7. Initial use permit request by Scott Bliven for an exception to the fence height requirements for a proposed fence located at 1540 East 20th Street, parcel 33-07354, zone SR4, single family residential. Presenter, Bob Larson, zoning administrator, ordinance enforcement officer, but Bryce Hembrick is going to take over because Bob is not here this evening. So thank you, Bryce.
No problem. So the applicant, as you know, is requesting an exception to the fence height requirements. Typically, 6 foot is the max height for residential fences, except for in certain situations. However, the zoning code does allow for exceptions to a conditional use permit. So the subject property is located on the east side of the city in the newer Green Acres subdivision. The applicant, I believe, already has a fence to the southwest of their house, and there's some pictures that were included in the packet, and I'll kind of scroll through those. So there is a 6-foot fence there. However, the house next to them to the west is being built, and due to the height of the house that's going up, the applicant is requesting to change that from a 6-foot fence to an 8-foot fence for about 24 feet. And then it looks like also extend a 6-foot fence beyond that point. So I'll kind of go through some of these pictures here. So ultimately, the request is to replace this existing 6-foot fence here with an 8-foot fence. And then they would step down and add an additional 20 feet of the 6-foot fence. So ultimately, the only thing that the Plan Commission is really reviewing and approving would be this section. And then this would be administratively approved. I'm just kind of going through some of these pictures. They also included, and you guys can see the pictures on the screen, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So it kind of shows the distance between the houses, and then this shows what is currently there, their backyard view. And so, as you can see, they're concerned with the windows being there. So essentially, they just are looking to go 2 feet higher there. And then here's kind of a little bit of a better view. So ultimately, these have been reviewed by the Plan Commission in the past, and generally there hasn't been too many issues with these, especially in certain instances. This is a pretty minor, change from the ordinance. So overall, I had Bob Larson took a look at this and he had no concerns with it. So the recommendation for this request was to approve, staff recommendation is to approve the conditional use request with the following conditions/exceptions. Number one, the applicant is permitted to have an 8-foot privacy fence located in the rear yard as presented on the site plan. Number two, the extension, installation of 8-foot fencing beyond what is shown on the site plan or other materials will require additional plan commission and council review. And then number three, the minor adjustment or any minor adjustments to the site plan may be approved administratively provided no other exceptions are required. And I can help try to answer any questions if anyone has any.
I'll make a motion to approve as
We have
presented.
to, it's a public hearing, so we
Yep.
need,
Oh,
We have to-
start
yep.
hearing?
The public hearing is now open. Any comments during public hearing? Any comments during public hearing? Any comments during public hearing? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Now, do you have any questions or would you like to make a motion to accept?
I will make that motion to accept as presented.
Alderman O'Reilly accepts the motion and second.
I can second that.
We'll have Kat second that. Thank you. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Veith?
Aye.
Opposed?
Yes,
Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 8, conditional use permit request by Hayden Henry representing Next Gen Agronomy LLC to allow an agricultural service use land use in the GI General Industrial Zoning District located at parcel 33-07091 south of Yellowstone Drive and directly to the east of 2909 South Millard Avenue. This request may include exceptions to landscaping and parking requirements. Presenter, Bryce Hembrick, planner.
Mayor. So the subject property is currently one large property that is owned by the city of Marshfield. And so the plan is the applicant is negotiating with the city to purchase a portion of it, roughly shown here in this rectangle. Now, this isn't the final layout of the lot, but generally based on their description of how much land they need and what they're looking to do, this appears to be roughly the location. And then you can see that there's a stormwater pond here to the east. It is located in the southeast side of the city, and the applicant is intending to construct a building, and then there would also be seed storage bins. So the proposed use would mainly be the storage and the sale of the agricultural seed, and there would also be an office included. The project is expected to be to consist of 2 phases. The first phase would include the construction of a 14,000 square foot facility. And the second phase may include the construction of a second cold storage building, and that would mainly be for equipment storage and crop protection. So based on all the information that was provided, the zoning administrator determined that this would be an agricultural service land use, and in the GI, General Industrial Zoning District, that is considered a conditional use. So ultimately, that's why we're here today, is to discuss, whether or not it would be permitted. And so just for a little background information on what an agricultural service is, it's not a very common land use that we've seen, at least recently. So it's defined as operations pertaining to the sale, handling, transport, packaging, storage, or disposal of agricultural equipment, products, byproducts, or materials, primarily used or produced by agricultural operations. And one of the examples listed was feed and seed stores, and some of these other things kind of tied in. So ultimately, it fit under that land use. The applicant, as I mentioned, is proposing to construct a 14,000 square foot wood frame facility. There would be about 5 offices, a receptionist desk, and then there would be a heated shop as well as a cold storage building. So here is a site plan. So the one thing I did note in the staff report is that this site plan will still need to meet other requirements in order to meet our zoning code requirements for site plan. And this can be addressed after we go to the development review team meeting. Typically we go to a DRT before conditionally or plan commission. However, with the timeline, it was kind of difficult, and the applicant wanted to know if the use would be permitted before kind of going into the final details. And so The majority of the reviews that we do in Marshfield can be administratively approved through the development review team and my review and the zoning administrator's review. So those are all details that we can figure out as we move forward if the plan commission is comfortable with that. But ultimately what they show here is the building would be located. It's difficult to tell, but at least a portion of it would be at least 60 feet from the property line. The property line would begin roughly where there's a bike path right here. So it would likely be on the south side of the bike lane. So they are planning to build the building there. The majority of the site is shown as gravel, except for some concrete around the building. And then I'll also kind of talk about the conditions that I added for allowing, gravel to go on most of the site. However, some hard surfacing should be required in order to avoid having gravel tracking onto the roads, tracking onto other properties, and then especially the stormwater pond. So I'll kind of go over that in a second. One of the things I wanted to note is currently they're showing one access drive off of Yellowstone Drive. After talking with the project engineer, it sounds like they may be looking for a second access drive more on the east side. From a planning perspective, I'm fine with that. I'm not sure if Tom Turchi is in attendance tonight, if he has any thoughts, but that could be a detail that can be addressed in the development review team if the plan commission is fine with that. And then here's kind of a floor plan showing, generally storage, shop, and an office. And then here's roughly showing, what the seed storage bins would look like. And there's some more information in the packet. I did include the applicant's narrative to provide a little bit more information on the use in the packet, but I'm not necessarily going to go over all those details unless you guys have questions. Agricultural service land uses require one parking space per employee. I didn't see any detail as to how many employees they have, proposed on site. However, looking at the site, it is a pretty large site, and so there's going to be plenty of room to accommodate parking. So we can also address that in the DRT. If there is, for some reason, a need for an exception, we can always bring that back to Plan Commission. And then, as I kind of touched on with gravel, so in the GI district, we allow for certain areas to be left as gravel. As long as there's hard surface access drives, a 15-foot setback from all property lines. And then there's also a requirement for 50 feet from any stormwater management facility. So one of my conditions is to follow the regulations that are listed in the zoning code. And I'll state that section as part of the recommendation. So overall, generally, the use is fine. The Yellowstone Industrial Park is obviously intended to be more heavier industrial, general industrial, light industrial in nature, and then there can be some agricultural services provided. Also in the lands to the northeast that aren't in the city limits, those are more agricultural, rural, and some vacant. And so generally, it kind of fits the overall surrounding area. I did not think that allowing this request would result in substantial or undue adverse impacts on the nearby properties or the character of the surrounding area. So with that, my recommendation was to recommend approving this request with the following conditions. Number one, gravel is permitted for parking and traffic circulation areas. However, the conditions outlined in section 18-103-7, subsection B, 1, C, 1 through 5 shall apply. Number two, the development review team shall review the proposed plans prior to final approval and issuance of a building permit. If major changes to the site plan are required as determined by the zoning administrator, the applicant will need to resubmit to the Plan Commission for site plan approval. And then also, this would also be included for any exceptions that are needed, whether it's, additional hard surface exceptions or height exceptions, et cetera. We could bring that back, but it would be a requirement whether it's listed in this or not. So I just wanted to kind of touch on that. And then number three, a final site plan meeting requirements established in section 18-164 of the zoning code shall be submitted to city staff prior to the issuance of a building permit. And that is all that I have. I can try to answer any questions that the Plan Commission may have. Thank you.
We'll open up for public hearing. Public hearing open. Any comments? Any comments in public? Any public comments? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. We need a motion? Or if you have any questions before the motion?
Who's second? Kim.
Yes. Thank you. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Ms. Feith? Commissioner Feith?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Favor.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
That
It's a
motion
little bit
passes.
muffled. I apologize.
Oh, that's okay,
That's all
no
right.
problem.
Nope, you're good. You're here. Thank you. That's all. I'll be careful. Yep. Number 9, annexation and rezoning request for territory owned by Interstate Marshfield LLC, including a request for LI light industrial zoning related to the petition for direct annexation for one parcel and adjacent road rights of ways consisting of 10 acres, more or less, to be detached from the city of Marshfield and annexed to this, detached from the town of Marshfield and annexed to the city of Marshfield, located at 8348 Heritage Drive. Presenter Bryce Hembrick, planner.
Mayor, and sorry for making you read all that.
No, that's better rating.
And I just want to double check. Can you guys hear me just fine?
Yeah, thank
Yes,
you.
we can. It's much
Bryce,
better.
you're coming in a lot better than the last month or two, and we appreciate the fact that you worked with us to try and check the sound system the other day, so thank you.
Sounds good. Yeah, I just want to double check. So yeah, the applicant is ultimately looking to annex into the city of Marshfield from the town of Marshfield. I believe that iState owns the the property directly to the west, and their plan is to combine both of these lots once this lot is the subject property is annexed into the city, and so they would look to construct their their business for like a vehicle service, I think sales, and possibly light industrial, but regardless, they would look to combine these, the two sites, and there are utilities that come off of Draxler right by the Quick Trip here. So ultimately this property would be able to access utilities through this annexation. So the property is located on the southeast side of the city, as I mentioned, kind of by the Quick Trip, coming off of Highway 10. The applicant forwarded the petition to the Department of Administration and also the town of Marshfield, which is a state statute requirement. The Department of Administration has reviewed this and generally did not have any concerns. I believe that was included in your packet. They did make one little note on updating the scale map in the petition, but other than that, they didn't see that this would cause any adverse impacts by allowing this annexation. One of the things that we do for annexations for the city of Marshfield is to review and assign a zoning designation, so a zoning district. It's easier than coming back in the future. So the property that it will be combining with is currently zoned light industrial, and there is also light industrial directly to the north. And so the subject property would be looking to be rezoned to light industrial to ultimately combine with that parcel. The only commercial property within the city limits that's nearby would be the Quick Trip. And the other parcels to the north, east, and south are town of Marshfield. So we don't typically look in, too in depth about the other land uses, but generally this would fit in with the future land use map, which is included here. So the purple shown is employment retail mixed use. And so this allows for a wide range of offices, light industrial, and then ultimately the use that they're proposing to have at this site is more suited for the employment retail mixed use, where this red color is for general commercial. And then as you can see further to the east, this is kind of the furthest extent of the future land use map. So there's really not too many plans to extend further than this point. If, in the future, other lands try to annex. So I kind of provided some more information in our it's either in our comprehensive plan created a list of criteria to consider when, reviewing the annexation. So I'll just kind of briefly go over that. Based on the criteria, we've determined that city will have sanitary sewer and water utilities located nearby and they can be extended. The city can readily provide services, utilities, and facilities to the area. And obviously there's already access to a road, and then there would be more than likely access to the other portion of the property that it will combine with. The annexation is located in an area identified in the future land use map. As I mentioned, it would be the employment retail mixed use. All public improvements, both off-site and on-site, necessary to serve the annexation shall be constructed and financed in accordance with city policies and standards. We've determined that to be true. And then annexation area can be developed in a timely manner so the city does not invest in development costs without the timely return of necessary fees and taxes. As I mentioned, it's the applicant's intention to combine the two properties and hopefully construct their building within, the next couple of years. And then we have determined that this meets the state annexation statutes. This is a direct petition of 100% of the property owners. And the DOA has reviewed and determined that they did not have any concerns. So with that, ultimately the comprehensive plan also recommends that the city should approve annexation petitions from property owners when they are considered to be consistent with the comprehensive plan, as well as any adopted intergovernmental agreements and state statutes. So because we have determined that it meets those requirements, my recommendation is to approve the annexation request and designate LI, light industrial zoning for the subject parcel. Sorry, it says parcels, it's just one parcel. And direct staff to prepare an annexation ordinance for common council consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Public hearing is now open. Are there any comments in public hearing? Any comments in public hearing? A third time? Any comments? Public hearing is now closed. We need a motion to pass or not?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Alderman O'Reilly,
I'll second the motion.
second by Ms. Veith. Any other comments, questions?
Yes.
Seeing none?
I think she wants to make a comment.
Oh,
Was that you, Ms. Beith?
Yes, it was.
Go ahead.
I think she's.
No, I was seconding the motion.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were making I got you down as seconding the motion. I thought you were looking to make a comment after that. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 10, discussion regarding amending the sign code to allow projector signs. And this is by Bryce Hembrook, our presenter planner.
Thank you. So as you may recall, last month's meeting, there was an alternative sign permit request for a projector sign for the Mueller Electric property in the downtown area. And based on that discussion, I believe it was Commission Member Caprillion who had asked for city staff to look into, maybe amending the code to allow for projector signs. So before I introduced a proposed ordinance, I just kind of want to go over a couple of things with the Plan Commission to see if they had any, concerns, any additional conditions that you would like to add on to the ordinances, and also, to see if you guys had a preference on which, districts they're allowed in. And so I provided a memo, and it was more of a high-level memo just to kind of get the conversation started. But basically, I wanted to just kind of start off by, determining, what we should be looking at. So where should this type of sign be located? And so my recommendation, after kind of thinking about it and seeing what other places do, I would recommend that this type of sign be reviewed and approved as an alternative sign permit always. So this could be allowed in any district. However, that would allow for the Plan Commission to review and determine whether they want to approve or deny on a case-by-case basis. The other alternative is to set, districts that you want it in, and then, mention ones that you don't want it in. So if for some reason you don't want to allow them in industrial zoning districts or uses, then we can, make that known. But I think that these should probably be reviewed as alternative sign permit regardless. So I think that allows for some flexibility for the Plan Commission to determine. Another thing that I just wanted to kind of bring up would be, would there be a limit for the number of projector signs, or once again, would this be determined on a case-by-case basis? And then should we require projector signs to be equipped with photosensitive equipment, which automatically adjusts the brightness and contrast of the sign? So this was one of the recommendations that I had for last month's meeting. And I don't know if we kept that condition or tweaked it because we had another condition that was similar. But those are just some considerations that I wanted to include. And then I also wanted to see if the Plan Commission has any questions, concerns, or any additions that they would like to have as a condition moving forward for all projector signs. And then, so ultimately, I kind of provided some recommendations if the Plan Commission wants to allow this type of sign. So once again, I think it should be considered alternative sign permit. I think the projection shall face downward and shall not extend beyond the curb into the street. Failure to comply with this requirement will result in immediate permit revocation. Number two, the projection shall be limited to displaying the logo of a business located on a subject property as a static image. No flashing, moving, rotating, or animated signs are allowed. And then non-commercial messages such as holiday greetings may be displayed. And then any projector signs that are deemed to present a safety hazard as determined by whether it's the Marshfield Police, the zoning administrator, or public works director shall be removed immediately upon notice. So you'll notice that these are almost the same as the conditions that were approved at last month's meeting. I think that these are probably ones that we should keep for all of them. But just want to throw this out there before I spent more time, creating the ordinance changes and bringing it back to you. If you guys had any concerns, if you wanted to add anything, delete anything. So this is more of just a discussion. We're not looking to vote on any changes tonight. So just kind of wanted to get the ball rolling on this. That way I'm not spending more time than I need to try to come up with some conditions for these types of signs.
Yes, Alderman O'Reilly.
Bryce, I have a question regarding bullet point 1, where it says the projection shall face downward. I'm just envisioning the potential for someone that could have a high building and potentially mount these facing up onto their structure, or something at ground level on a lower building shining up. And I mean, they could probably be dealt with on an individual basis, but with that in there, I don't know if it can be adjusted or if we should kind of eliminate that and deal with that question on an individual basis as well.
I think that's definitely a good point. I was thinking about that as well. I think it would probably be best if you guys are open to allowing that, it would probably be best to just remove that, and then on a case-by-case basis. I think most importantly with the example from last month, that was, they're at a 0-foot step back because they're next to the sidewalk. And so for that one, I definitely wanted it to be directly down. That way it's not going into the right of way. Most buildings are going to be 20 to 50 feet back. If it's not as much of a concern. And then with what you're saying with, shining it onto the building, it would probably be best just to remove that bullet point. And then, if it's in the downtown area, we'll just have to make sure that we remember to, make a requirement like that.
Yes.
May I ask a question? This is Beef.
Yes, you can.
Is this one sign, or are we talking about multiple signs throughout the town, our city?
Yeah, so this would be for the amending the sign code. So this would allow for signs, businesses throughout the city to go through and get a alternative sign permit to allow for a projector type sign. And were you at the meeting at last month's meeting?
No, I was
Okay.
not.
So just to kind of give examples, so they were having projectors that were mounted on the building, and they were projecting an image directly down onto the sidewalk. And so it wasn't a physical sign. And so we didn't really have much to regulate on that. And so we considered an alternative sign permit. So ultimately they had, I think it was 5 or 6 projector signs that were all pointed down with a logo of Mueller Electric or any of the tenants that are on site. So this change would ultimately be for, you know, if a McDonald's wanted to come in and get a projector sign, they'd have to go through that, or, you know, any other business. So this would ultimately affect any business. However, if you guys wanted to limit it to only certain districts, you could certainly do that. That way they aren't all around town. But then one of the things that I included in the packet, this should be the last page of this item, is the different districts that are listed in the sign code. So it doesn't necessarily follow the zoning districts as in the zoning code. There's kind of, you know, industrial districts, downtown design corridor, campus districts, et cetera. So if you guys want to be very specific on where you want to allow it, only downtown or only commercial, you guys could certainly do that. But by keeping it kind of open-ended and having it as an alternative sign permit, that could allow for you guys to do a case-by-case basis. Does that help answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Franklin.
Concerning the question on bullet point 3, should we require projector signs to be equipped with photosensitive equipment? Actually, we voted that down last month, as I recall. Planning Commission member O'Reilly, I think that was part of his motion, was it not?
I don't know if that was the photo control, because I think we talked about photo controls and the natural dimming, and I think the dimming could potentially add a extended amount of cost to doing it. So I don't recall exactly how that was read, but I think it would make sense to get rid of it.
We have to look. Have to look back, but I think that was discussed, and maybe that was pulled. I really don't recall. Bryce, do you recall?
I believe that it was pulled. I still included it just because the difference is that at the last, so that item that we were talking about, we had other language that kind of was pretty similar. I don't know. I think the reason why I included that was because I didn't include the other stuff in this report. But to answer your question, yes, I do believe that we removed that bullet point 3 from the last month's item. Ultimately, I think what I'm trying to get at is at least some regulation for, I mentioned it somewhere, of like, you know, no blinking, no moving, animated signs, etc. So that's ultimately kind of the goal, is just to have some sort of, you know, regulation saying that, you know, brightness, that it's not going to be extremely bright. It's not going to cause glare issues, but then at the same time, it's not moving, it's not animated, etc.
Yeah. I think that bullet point is okay. Displaying logo, et cetera, no flashing, so on and so forth. I don't think you really, I don't know. I can't see the other being of a concern as far as the brightness and this sort of thing. I mean, it is going to be, if you get into that, it's going to be kind of strange, I think. You're going to try to measure the lumens or something like that. I mean, these are commercial signs. They have to be of a certain brightness in order to project an image during the daytime. That's that. And, you know, I don't see, I mean, it'd be just kind of like you're trying to make your television brighter or something. I mean, as long as the image is there, you're basically happy. You're not going to try to make it brighter for some reason. So that's my only comment. If there's a safety hazard, that's another issue. For some strange reason, there's a safety hazard, but which is always a possibility. So always you want to say you can't have a safety hazard. Yeah.
Alderman O'Reilly.
Thank you. Bruce, just inquiring, I guess, defining what a sign is and whether these can be on private residences. You see a lot of the holiday projectors that run up on the side of homes. Looks like snow falling or Christmas type displays. it brings those to mind and whether that would be included in this. And then also, I could see an emerging market because I haven't seen these signs, I guess, before. And I think they're pretty cool, but I can see this expanding into potentially somebody putting up small signs for a home address, your address number on the side of a home rather than a physical sign there. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on should we be dealing with that now, or do we look at, I guess, should they be included in this? Should they be included, or should we allow them on residential? I guess just some food for thought.
No, that's certainly a great question. So what I didn't include was a draft definition for the use for the type of sign, just because, to be honest, I didn't really have a good one yet. And I kind of wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. So I didn't quite incorporate whether or not it would be in residential, but my thought is that we should try to veer away from regulating that for residential, uses. So let me just take a look here at our districts. So one of the things that we could do is we could say that this is allowed allowed as a alternative sign permit in all non-residential districts. And then residential districts, they're allowed to, have for holiday messages, but then we should probably include something that says that they can't just advertise for a business. So if, I don't know, let's say my favorite place to go is a Chick-fil-A and I want to throw a Chick-fil-A, projector sign into my front yard. I feel like that probably shouldn't be something that, we'd want to necessarily allow, but I think, allowing the holiday message signs would be appropriate. Like you said, people do Merry Christmas or 4th of July. I don't necessarily think that we would want to regulate that, not to mention, go to Plan Commission every time for that, because there could probably be a lot of that. I would just have to look a little closer as to how we word that. And also, I do get a little hesitant when it comes to, regulating certain types of speech. So I would, probably want to run that by the city attorney too, to make sure that any of the regulations aren't necessarily hampering on someone's freedom of speech for that. So those are all things that I'll try to address. But I think that is a great point. And then in terms of your question about, like the home address thing, I think that's probably an issue that would best be dealt with, I guess, in the future if that does become a thing. I think with the home addresses, we would probably have a bigger issue with it just because of emergency services. I think that you'd want to have a physical home address at least at a minimum, and then you could maybe do that as well. But that way, if for some reason the projector isn't showing and there's, a fire at, 570 South Cherry and they can't, the fire department can't find it, I think that would, pose a pretty big hazard. So that's probably something that we'd want to deal with at a later time. But I think if you guys are fine with it, I can try to word it to where these are generally referring to alternative sign permits in the non-residential districts. Residential districts are permitted to have it. And then maybe just include something about cannot display commercial messaging without maybe alternative sign permit.
Yeah, I think that sounds reasonable. I just didn't want there any confusion down the road with a neighbor complaining about someone who's got one of those projected on their home and
right.
Yeah, so, and I don't know, you may want to include something. I don't know if we have to deal with addresses specifically, but I don't know how that coder requirement reads. Maybe it would be better interjected into that, that there has to be a physical address sign in place. Maybe we're just jumping ahead though too, so.
This is Commissioner Veith. I feel like this is a wonderful idea for our community. And the reason behind that is I feel as though if we're able to, on this display, we have many people coming into our community that go to our clinic, which are not around here. And I feel that it would benefit our community, like with, let's just say for the holiday season, the Rotary lights. You know, more people are going to give. You know, just like the 4th of July, I just feel like it would really benefit our community.
Thank you. Any other comments?
And actually, that brings up a good point.
Go ahead.
Sorry. That brings up a good point too of like the Rotary lights and so some of those, you know, whether it's a park use or, you know, a hospital, if that's not necessarily a commercial message either, maybe it's just, I can try to tailor it to say if there is a clear commercial message that has to go through alternative sign permit. All non-commercial messages are generally permitted unless, you know, determined by the zoning minister. So I'll try to word it to where it's focused more on if it has a commercial message or not. That way it's not just eliminating it, or that way we're not making, like, for example, we're not going, if the park has a projector sign, we're not going back for that for, you know, institutional land use or a hospital. So I think that might be the way to go, is to just include that language to be a little more clear.
Any other questions?
Yeah, these are all great points. I really appreciate all the input on this. That's kind of why I wanted to have this discussion, is just before I'd spend a good amount of time crafting the ordinance. It helps to kind of talk these things through. So I appreciate all of your input.
Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to the next portion. Item number 11, request to recommend council approval of resolution number 2024-24, adjusting the Marshfield-Hewitt area boundary map, presented by Tom Turkey, Director of Public Works.
Okay, every 10 years, the Federal Highway Administration requires the city of Marshfield and local communities to approve an adjusted boundary map. And what it does is it provides for different types of funding for those areas located within that boundary area. So it is the urban area. So the area that is shown on the map that is yellow, has the yellow boundary, that is the urban area for the city of Marshfield and the town, village of Hewitt. And it's based upon ADTs and population. So therefore, I'd recommend approval of resolution 2024-24 and forward that to the Common Council for their consideration.
Alderman O'Reilly makes the motion. Commissioner Frederick seconds. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Is that an aye for?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Item number 12, removing comment on proposed revision of Mill Creek Business Park covenants, presented by Tom Turkey, Director of Public Works.
All right, I'm going to take and put my presentation. I don't know where this one came from. Or my and Josh's presentation. Do you want to hang on for a moment? Okay, what we were here is talk about the Mill Creek covenants that was being presented to the Plan Commission here tonight for comments. Okay. So basically it talks about Mill Creek, which was TID number 5, which is closed. But Mill Creek covenants were originally developed in 1999 to address the desires and uses of and aesthetics and wellhead protection concerns. State Highway 13 became Central Avenue back in 2004. and US Highway 10 was relocated to the south, and Old Highway 10 Heritage Drive became Heritage Drive in 2012. The Industrial Park Authority was dissolved back in 2013, and the city sign code was updated, and our zoning code was updated in 2013, and the sign code was updated in 2014. At the time, we had a cooperative boundary agreement with the town of Cameron, which expired in 2015, resulting in a large boundary attachment in 2015. The town later asked to be removed from the covenants committee. TID 5, which developed this business park, was terminated in 2024, and all the debt was paid off on it. Oops. The reasons for the updating. The zoning code districts and land uses and landscaping requirements were no longer consistent. Sign code regulations were no longer consistent. Street names had been changed. The Industrial Park Authority no longer existed. The need for clarification on the review process and responsibilities need to be updated, and we need to update the requirements for the wellhead recharge area. So the red line document goes back to 2017. The proposed changes were again brought forth in 2023. The attorney reviewed and approved the process that we had for this. The Common Council authorized the approval to amend the covenants. The president drafted covenants to the covenant committee. We reviewed these with business owners of the Mill Creeks Business Park in early 2024. We asked for signed consent forms and comments for the proposed changes. And it was reviewed by the covenant committee on May 29th with a minor change and recommended for Common Council for approval. The proposed changes updated the legal description with the correct street names, modified the committee membership, updated the wellhead protection zone and requirements, and had exceptions to require Marshfield utilities approval, and restricted the use of PFOs and other similar uses that would possibly contaminate the wellhead protection area, and updated the zoning districts and uses to match the current zoning code. The proposed changes also allows for development uses for tax exempt uses with like a development agreement. The Mill Creek covenants basically put the recommended it move forward, and that the Common Council would actually negotiate any developers agreements with anyone that's using facilities within that area that would be tax exempt. Specified building standards and landscaping and outdoor storage and parking exceptions by the covenant committee. It specifies that accessory structures and accessory uses and fences are permitted. Signage is required to meet the sign code, and specified approving authority of future amendments and changes when the city is no longer an owner of the majority of the share of the land. And it added an appendix to showing the allowable uses. So next step, we're looking to gather some input from the Plan Commission, review the changes and receive comments. And then these comments and changes are going to the Common Council for final approval. And then we record the finalized document. All right, there's no action that's needed tonight. What we wanted to do is just bring this to your attention. If there's any comments that this group would have, either submit those to Josh Miller or myself in writing, and then we can add those to comments that we've collected in the meetings we had with the business owners.
Great, thank you, Tom. Thank you for all your work, gentlemen. Number 13, staff updates.
Really just continuing trying to find staff. That always seems to be the update, right? Got the consultant is telling us that they've got a handful of candidates for the community development director position. They're doing pre-screening. Should be seeing those soon coming to the HR director and me, and down to a couple candidates on the senior planner, hoping to make an offer sometime soon. So I know I've said this many times. I feel like I'm a broken record, but hopefully the next month or two we'll have people on staff or coming on staff to help us with a lot of the work that we need to keep doing.
Thank you. Number 14, items for future agendas. Anybody have any ideas for future agenda items? Seeing none, we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all. And thank you, Kat, for being here.